meditation. I know we're coming in from all different walks, and perhaps there's, a lot of speed, or maybe it wasn't speed, but just want to make sure we're all on the same page. So if it's comfortable for you, I know most of you have your cameras off, and that's totally okay. I'm going to lead us through a guiding meditation just for a few quick minutes. If it's difficult for you to sit still, you're welcome to walk around and do a walking meditation. So, all right. We're just going to come back and sit into our seats. And let's take a deep breath together to really come into this space. And take another deep breath. Breathing in and letting go as you breathe out of any of the hectic, speedy energy of our daily living. And take another deep breath and breathe out. And if it's comfortable for you, we're just gonna slowly tune into the sensations of our head and see if there's any tension or pressure, and migrate our attention down to the neck, then to the back of our shoulders, where we're often holding a lot of stress, and to the chest. As we're moving downwards in our body, just really allowing ourselves to come back home to that is our body. And giving space to the core cavity. Maybe there's tension in the stomach. Oftentimes we're resisting or gripping against the world and holding that in our stomach. Just breathing that out. And just feeling the weight of your body on your chair and the weight of gravity holding you and supporting you. A couple more deep breaths here. And with each breath, you can imagine there's a spiral of energy leaving the body, of all that's not serving you. And then there's the sensations in the legs, moving down the awareness through the knees, ankles, and the feet. Just again, at this point, feel the touch point between the feet underneath you and your butt on the chair. Just feeling the 2 points of support. Just feeling the sense of coming back to yourself. Okay, so with that, I hope it brought us back to presence in the present moment as we become more aware of our bodies. I'm going to start my presentation. So, if you want to keep your camera off, that's totally okay. If you're open to turning it on, I would love to see you. Either way is fine. No pressure here. So, a little bit about me. I am an Asian American Chinese. I spent about 10 years of my life in China before migrating to the US. So, living in a bicultural household, it was navigating conflicts of what it's like to live in the rugged American individual expressionism and also the obedient Chinese, always considering for the others before yourself culture that my parents grew up in. And that really was a major conflict to navigate as I was growing up. And it seemed like everything was fine going through the school years. And then I started heading to my career track and really starting off in a very traditional background of corporate America and jumping from one role to another, really trying to find a place that fit myself. And what really happened is jumping from finance to tech to consulting. Every single time I would switch a job, I would go.
Can you guys still hear Abby?
No, I can't hear Abby.
Okay, I think she froze. Let me see what's going on. Okay, I think she's trying to rejoin. Sorry about that.
They're like a sword that is cutting the world into dissent and conflict, or it could be something that really unites and create opportunities for us. Next. So, what really happens as we lose our voice? We all know little children, they're endlessly chattering and they're just full of life. But over time, it's these external authorities that really just we're starting to living into to meet others' expectations. And these fear of judgments or how we're going to be received by others start to kind of overshadow what we know is true and our own truth. And maybe we say things in order to please others. And we start to lose this sense of curiosity and sense of aliveness that we used to hold when we were little children. Next. So we all know these different versions of ourselves. Maybe you have a little part of each in you, maybe one is a little bit stronger. But when we start to lose our voice, we start to overcompensate. And this can be, as women, we take on these more hard shell of who we think we can be, this more masculine energy of just pushing to get things done, pushing through no matter what, and this sort of wanting to control the situation and begin to want to just become stoic warriors to meet these expectations of the world. Or we can become people pleasing and wanting to be liked and always afraid to really express what is inside and be written with fear and guilt. And both of these, despite its different emanations, really comes from this place of powerlessness and being a victim. And when we're not really speaking our truth, we take on these external shells in order to meet the external world. Next. And so I just want to take a minute and here just asking, we have lost the recognition that perhaps what we truly want have mattered, and staying on our own side in that sense of mattering. So just want to ask you,
Are you standing on your own side? Click. Or are you constantly leaning to meet others where they are? And this constant sense of toppling back and forth of being in ourselves and being in another. Are you giving yourself the permission to feel what it is that is true internally happening for you and giving space to that? Next. And I want to talk about what is it that we have lost and how can we really gain it back through this process of conditioning as we grow up. And I really do think that most importantly, we've lost our ability to listen to ourselves. You know, as we grow up, this constant listening to external authority, we have removed our own internal authority. And particularly, people like to say our wanters are broken. So our wants and needs are no longer taken into consideration as we're trying to meet the world's demands. And secondarily, we're no longer feeling a lot of the natural instincts and feelings as a signal of emotional wisdom. And particularly in certain family structures, negative emotions are not allowed, but anger has its place. Dangerous. But when these emotions are really stuffed inside and not having a place to express itself, we really lose in touch with what is important to us. And these signals that are so subtle but so vital are no longer part of our existence. Next. And so what I want to say is we need to come to recognize the importance of that I have a voice and I deserve to be heard. If you did not have a parent that was there to support you as you were growing up, to listen to your needs and wants because they had their own demands of life or they just were not able to provide that for themselves, we had to come to recognize that we deserve to be heard. And this is a very easy thing to say intellectually and understand it, but it is a whole nother journey to really recognize it on an emotional level. So the emotional recognition involves this understanding of your emotional self, the anger, fear, the wanting, the resentment, all that jumbled mess of a part of being human that is messy and beautiful in one. And also with our emotions, this is where a lot of my practice comes in, is the recognition that emotions are directly tied to our body. When we have a certain emotion, there's a direct interaction with what's occurring in our body. And if we're able to tune into what's happening with our body, we're much more present to what's true to ourselves. And if you think about not having a voice, it often shows up as this wanting to say something and it rises up, but we're not able to let it release itself. There's just a choking in the throat. And as a result of that, typically it results in a wanting to hide and a feeling of smallness, which also shows up somatically of like how we position ourselves in the body. And I do want to call attention to that. So next. And the next piece, in addition to this, is an awareness that we can gain of what is happening relationally. Because we are not living in a bubble. We all are constantly in interaction with each other. And this interaction, sorry about this. Okay, can you guys hear me? So
We can hear you, but we cannot see you.
you cannot see me. Okay, there you go. You can see me now, right? Okay. All right, so this relational recognition as well, like again, whenever we feel small and avoidant, it's a recognition that we're not showing up in our voices and we're not being our full selves. And so there's so many incidences, I'm sure, in all of our lives and in our past that it resonates with. And next, click. And there's a saying that is, We live in a very intellectual world, and one of the longest distances that we can travel is the 10 inches from our head to our heart. And really, part of speaking our voice and finding our truth is to come from a place of speaking from the heart beyond the pure intellect, because the heart is where courage lies. Next. And so, really, I think a part in sharing, there's a lot of nuances, again, in human interaction of when to share and when not to share. And I really do think asking ourselves truly, what is our intention and for sharing is very important. And secondarily, as before I was sharing, words can really cut or it can bring together. So, what exactly, where are you coming from in this sharing? Are you being clear and to yourself first, and then to others? And that clarity then can be expressed in a kind way. And typically, when we turn towards another, there's a sense of power and a sense of aliveness and a connection. And with that, there has to be a level of vulnerability. But if we're turning away, it often leaves us feeling disconnected and wanting to avoid, and often having a lot of stories of judgments and resentments towards the interaction and situation and person that we're dealing with. And that's really how we cannot create an opening for new possibilities and a space to explore what can occur when we're just completely shutting down the situation and running our own narratives as we're sitting in it. And next. So the word courage, this is where we'll land with the courage to speak. The courage has a Latin root, and cor actually means heart, which is where the seat of our emotions sit. And to really have the courage, what it means is, I think this is from Brene Brown, she said, to speak one's mind by telling all one's heart. So a rule that I try to live by and constantly living into, because this is incredibly challenging and easy to say. So I'm on this journey with everyone here, is to speak what is true, even if it, especially if it is hard. Just finding a way to speak what is true for you. And to me, it requires putting myself on the line to reveal my heart to the world. And even preparing for this presentation, there's a part of me of wanting to write down scripts and to come up with all these things that I want to say that sound smart. But really what I ended up on is, how do I just share myself and speak from a place of my heart and just try to be here with everyone in the present. And the second thing is, let others know what you want so they can meet you there. One of the biggest things I had struggled with is not knowing how to express what I needed and what I wanted, and in turn of not getting that was extremely angry and feeling a sense of helplessness. And so this is something I now currently try to live by in a sense of trying to empower myself. So next. All right, so let's stop sharing the slide there, Jen, if possible. And I just want to, before we move on to the next portion, see if anyone has any comments or want to share anything from what I've shared so far. Ways that we're holding ourselves that blocks us from speaking our truth and speaking out of what we need to speak. So I'll give everyone a minute to get that. And for those of you who have it in front of you, you can just take a minute to settle in. Okay, all right, let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to start with the body scan again, just to tune ourselves to the present. So we're going to come back. We're currently sitting in our chairs, and we all have a small body, and our body is the small body, and the world that we live in is the larger body. As we find ourselves connected to the larger body, we're finding ourselves home in ourselves. If there is any discomfort, maybe a lot of anxiety, maybe a feeling of needing to run around, and get things done, letting it all just be there. Just giving ourselves a permission for 1 minute, just for ourselves, taking the time to truly listen. What is it that we want? Maybe it's the shell that we hold on for being a strong, empowered career woman, to prove that we're worthy. Maybe it's a fear of meeting others' expectations, this constant fear and worry that we're just not enough. What are these parts within us that's running, always under the subconscious awareness? Not knowing when it will just poke its head out. So just really taking this minute, permissioning ourselves to truly listen inside. Tuning into the chest, the gut, allowing it to expand. A little bit below your navels, where a lot of our emotions are holding itself. In the throat region, the power cord, where we connect ourselves, our thoughts, our dreams, ambitions to the outer world. Is there tension? Maybe there's a part of you that wants to speak up for something that's just not able to. Just want us to take a minute to think about a specific time when this happened. Who were you engaging with? And what was the situation? Once that's coming into your awareness, you're welcome to write it down, or if you're able to hold it just in your head, that's also okay. Just notice any images. Perhaps you see the situation that you're in. Maybe there's some sounds that's happening. Just allowing that to come into awareness. And now, where do you feel sensations in your body? When you think about this wanting to speak out, to reach out to another, to express yourself, but not able to. Where is the sensation the strongest? And what does it feel like in that restraint of not able to be held back? And just giving that all the space and permission to come up for you. And let's ask this part that's showing itself to us. What do you want for me? There's always a positive intent. What do you want for me? And then just thanking it for whatever answer that's come up for you. And then we're going to ask that part if you can have that fully, what do you want that's more important from having that? Thanking it again for sharing the answer with us. And with this knowing, what is it like to meet our needs, to break through the barriers? And if it's possible, maybe just sense into your body right now to see if there's any tension or restraint that is coming up. If it feels easy, you can also do any movement to just give you more breath of space, just fully taking up space. Knowing that you deserve all the space that you want. It doesn't have to be forceful. It's an effortless taking up space. not an aggressive exertion, but just slowly allowing. Knowing that you deserve to be heard and all your needs are valid and can be expressed. And with that, you can come back into the awareness of the outer world. And taking a minute to just reintegrate all that's come up for you.